In this lesson, we are going to learn about cropping, reduction and enlargement. In this video, we are going to learn about why do we need to crop an image and how do we crop an image. We are going to learn how to do cropping of an image in the camera and the settings that are used for it. We are also going to learn how to use cropping of an image in post-processing. Let us see various examples of cropping with Mr. Saravanan as he shares his work and explains these in detail.
Today we will talk about cropping, reduction and enlargement of a photograph. In this session, we will talk about the cropping. Cropping is the process of removing unwanted pixels in your image through post-process or in camera facility. This is required to draw attention towards the main elements of the photograph. It also helps in getting closer to the subject when it is done in camera. I will explain to you all the process of cropping through examples from my work. First, let's look at why we need to crop. Cropping means that we remove unwanted space and elements from a photograph and also try and bring focus on the main subjects in the photograph. How do we do cropping? We can do cropping in camera or we can do cropping after we take a photograph in a post-processing software. When we do in-camera cropping, the in-camera cropping facility is available mostly in full-frame cameras and in very few top-end crop sensor cameras. When you look at through the camera frame, we have a huge amount of pixels, and when we crop, the frame can be cropped by sacrificing the pixels and going closer to the subject. The crop range varies from model to model, from about 1.4 times to 1.7 times of the full frame size. Advantage of doing a crop in camera is that the composition of the frame can be done at the same instant while clicking, and this saves a loss of pixels and post-processing issues later. Let's look at the settings we need to set up the in-camera crop. Now the settings are subject to camera model, so I would request you to refer the manual for exact settings. First have to go to the image area menu, and in the image area menu you have to choose the image area. Now in image area you have, if you see, various options, like a full frame option is 36/24, going up to 1:1 option which is 24/24. So whichever option you choose, it will give you that kind of a crop. So I usually, for a wildlife or a bird photography, I would always choose 30x20 or a 24x16, that is 1.2x or a DX setting, which will help me crop the image in the camera itself, and second, it helps me go closer to the subject. So you can choose whichever crop you want, and the advantage of doing this is that when you look at the frame through your camera viewfinder, this is a cropped image which you will get, and you will save a lot of post-processing time. So how do you do cropping if you have a full frame image but you want to do it after you have shot the image? Now if you look at the image here, it has a lot of negative spaces, but we would like to crop the image following rules of third and then only on the subject and a little bit of negative space. So for that, if you look at the blue box, that is what we want the final image to be. The way to do it in post-processing is that there are a lot of post-processing softwares which you can use. I am using Photoshop here, and the way to use this in Photoshop is that first you need to click on the crop symbol on the sidebar, which is indicated in the arrow. The crop symbol will give you various sub-options. Use the crop tool in the sub-option, the first one. Once you have used the crop tool, you will get various sub-options in the crop tool, like you have a width into height into resolution. You have various already put in menus like 1:1, which is a square. Then there are ratios like 4:5 or 5:7. You can choose any of them, but I would prefer that you choose the W into H into resolution, because this is the simplest one and it gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of how to crop your image. In case you don't have any dimension restrictions, just leave the W into H into resolution areas blank, and you will get cropping edges in the frame. Now you just have to choose any one of the edge and drag it inwards. This will start cropping the image. So now you see, this is the final image of what now after cropping we have got this from the image which was full of negative spaces. We have got now an image which is finely cropped with only the subject and a little bit of negative space. Now in case you have a W into H into resolution details, you have dimensions which are given to you by for a competition or for an exhibition, then you can use the same option of W into H into resolution and then fill in the details. Now how do you fill them? The width and height columns can be filled using pixels. What you have to do is write px after the number, or in inches you have to write in after the number, or centimeters or millimeters, and the resolution can be filled either as pixels per inch or pixels per centimeter. The usual parameters filled are in pixels and the resolution filled are in pixel per inch. So let's take an example. Let's say that we have to fill 1200 pixel as width and 800 pixels as height and 70 pixels per inch as resolution. So this is how the final input will look like, and once you have done that, you will again get all the cropping edges. You will have to choose any one of them and start drawing them inwards, and as you start drawing them inwards, now the picture will start getting cropped in the dimensions as we have keyed in. The difference between this process and the earlier one which we saw is that the earlier one there is no dimension put in, so the image will be cropped in a free manner. Here the dimensions are put for width and height, so the image will be cropped in with that restrictions. So this is the final cropped image, and if you look at it from what it was filled with negative space, and now it is only the subject and a little bit of negative space following the rules of third. So this is how you crop an image. But as I said, while cropping, remember the rules of composition. The rules of third were followed here. Empty space in the direction the subject is looking is given importance. So this W into H into resolution, the option gives you a lot of flexibility in following the rules of third, and thereby you can crop following the various rules of third, or let it be the vertical or the horizontal crop. You can do either. I hope this session gives you an idea on how to crop an image in post-processing as well as in-camera crop. I would always suggest that you first try the in-camera crop, because in-camera crop gives you much more control and it helps you frame the image. But in case you have taken a photograph where you are not able to do an in-camera crop, or your capability of the camera is not so much that it gives you a chance to do in-camera crop, then there is always post-processing, and please follow these steps to get a good cropped picture.
In this video, we have learnt what cropping is, the need for cropping, and how to crop an image in camera and with post-processing software. We must remember that in-camera cropping can save considerable time during post-processing and also helps retain the frame. While doing cropping, generally we should keep in mind the rules of composition. We are going to continue in the next video on reduction and enlargement.